Welcome to an introduction to careers in international affairs, brought to you by the Association of Professional Schools of International Affairs, or APSIA. APSIA is the community of graduate schools worldwide that have shown both the depth of the international affairs work that they do and the strong professional focus that they have. And so we're very pleased to talk about the many, many different career options within international affairs and then some key skills that professionals need to get started and advance in their journey. To begin, of course, the question is, how would you know if this space makes sense for you as part of your professional life? And maybe you want to use that professional life, not your volunteer time or your personal time, but your professional journey to tackle some of the big problems that we have facing us in our world: poverty, disease, climate change, environmental issues. All of these big, massive issues are things that need global solutions and are part of an international affairs career. Maybe you feel called to help people and you want to have your professional life be part of that call to service and be of service to others. So you want to use that as the cornerstone of your professional journey. Maybe you're curious about the world and all of its wonderful difference of languages and cultures, and you want to travel and you want to experience all the many different parts that our world has to offer. And that's something you would like to be part of your signature professional life. Maybe you've seen how policy choices, whether it's in your capital city or more locally, have an everyday impact on people's lives. And you either want to be that decision maker or be the person who influences what that decision maker chooses. Maybe you just like to argue and you love the energy and that exchange that comes from absolutely trying to convince someone that you're right and perhaps every so often letting your own mind be changed. But if that's the back and forth that really gets you going and gets you interested, perhaps that's how you'll find a space in international affairs. And even if it's not any of these things, maybe you just have this deep sense that you want to be part of something larger than yourself and contribute to leaving the world a little bit better than you found it. And if these or other reasons are what bring you to international affairs, there is a place and a space for you in this field. And we say this field, but it's actually a broad, broad umbrella and range of opportunities. Much like the study of international affairs that combines history and politics and culture and language and business and economics and trade and education, so do the many different career possibilities under the international affairs umbrella. Many people are familiar with tracks like diplomacy or defense or development, but there is an international affairs aspect to so much more, to energy, to human rights, to communications, education, science. All of these pieces have an international and global element to them and careers underneath them. You'll find in particular that many people organize the international affairs space into the public sector, meaning local, state, or province and national governments, the private sector, the nonprofit sector, and the multilateral or intergovernmental sector. But in reality, most and many jobs work across and between all of these different areas. And so, one helpful organizing principle, instead of trying to think about public or private or nonprofit work, is to think about the kinds of problems you want to solve, who's working on those problems, who's in the way of fixing those problems, and where along the broad spectrum of possibilities you want to contribute to solving or addressing those particular problems. So rather than siloing yourself into one particular area, thinking about all the ways that the world might be broken or have opportunity and figure out where it is that you want to contribute. So, for example, perhaps you have a real interest in a specific part of the world and a great love of writing or journalism. You can combine those two things into becoming a human rights monitor, where you use the tools of honest and transparent writing and factual storytelling and your deep knowledge about a particular place to tell the real story about what's going on in a particular area. And if that is your interest and that's the problem you want to work on solving, you'll find opportunities at the city level, you'll find them at the national level, working on addressing human rights issues and what comes in or out of a particular place. You'll find it in the private sector as they try to understand what's happening in their supply chain or how their technology platform is being used to advance or decline human rights interests. You'll find it in the nonprofit space as they work with local communities to understand their rights, as they work on the global level to champion broader perspectives, as they work to tell those true stories about what's really going on. And you'll find it in the intergovernmental sector as different countries come together to work on key issues that cross borders and need a real understanding of what's happening in a place and space in order to move things forward. That's just one of many, many different examples about how different interests and skills and talents and training can be combined to build careers across those four sectors. And so that's why basing it on the kinds of problems that you'd like to contribute to solving can be a really effective way of figuring out which pieces you'd like to combine as you begin or advance your professional journey. And there's lots of different ways that same lens can be applied. You can put together an interest in computer science and policy challenges and work on cybersecurity issues in the public, private, nonprofit, and multilateral sectors. You can work on trade, sustainable development, climate change, lots of different ways to bring your interests together around a particular challenge that we're facing. Regardless of what issue you'd like to work on or problem you'd like to solve or sector you end up in, there are 5 key things that we find everybody needs in order to move forward. And so these are critical skills that you can build in order to advance your career no matter what kind of issue you're interested in. The first is some professional experience, some exposure to what professional life is like. It's going to be about how you work with a boss, how you work with colleagues, how you behave in particular situations. If you're able to, the cherry on top can be experiencing those things in an international context because different countries have different ideas about how you relate to your boss, how you work as a team, how you get stuff done. So having that cross-cultural experience can be really valuable as you try to move forward in your professional career. In our space in particular, but broadly, the ability to communicate clearly and concisely is also a really important factor and distinguisher among candidates. A key part of that is the ability to write well. And I don't necessarily mean those large 80, 90-page papers you might do as a student. I'm talking about all the information that's in that 80-page paper delivered in maybe a page and a half. Something that really explains to me all that you know about a subject, what I as the reader should know, and what we should do about it. And a lot of international affairs takes place in written form. So this ability to write clearly and concisely is absolutely critical. Similarly, the ability to speak comfortably in front of lots of different kinds of audiences. Can you hold their attention? Can you convey what you know? Can you help them grow in their understanding of a particular topic? And again, if this is a skill that is something you struggle with, practicing these things, getting exposure to these things is really helpful and important because so much of international affairs is also interpersonal as you try to relate to others. Another one of those cherry on top aspects is the ability to do this in a language other than your native language. It helps you reach so many different audiences, convey and explain what you mean to a much broader spectrum of people. And so the ability to take what you know and to put it forward in a language other than your native language is a really, really helpful trait. Another important language as it is that is useful and critical as you move forward in your professional life is the ability to understand the language of information. For some folks, that's going to be the quantitative mathematical calculations of data. But for everybody, the ability to look at a situation, to unpack it, to see what works, to see what doesn't, what needs fixed, what you can grow, where you need to capitalize on opportunity. That ability to monitor and understand a situation, evaluate its capabilities, learn from those things, and then move forward is a critical skill set that everyone needs. The ability to understand what the math people tell you is also very valuable, but these two things live together in that analytical toolkit that all professionals need going forward. The fourth thing everyone needs, in my opinion, is the ability to understand how you move an idea forward. How do you make something a reality? How do you marshal the human resources, the financial resources, the time to move something from point A to point Z? Can you bring others with you on this journey and deliver on what you promised? That really helps to distinguish professionals in the workplace as someone who doesn't just think of ideas, but really can bring them to life. The fifth thing I think everyone needs is a network of supporters around them. And sometimes networking is thought of as standing in a dark room with a drink in your hand. But what a network can be is a group of supporters who simply know things that you don't know and have been exposed to things you haven't been exposed to yet. It can be your classmates, your professors, the staff at your institution, the alumni from your institution. Lots of folks around you that you don't necessarily have to have deep and abiding friendships with, but you're in relationship with them as a great way of understanding and learning from them and sharing what you know. So these five traits are going to help and advance professionals in lots of different fields, lots of different sectors, and all along your professional journey. So, how do you get these things? One key way to build professional experience, of course, is through internships. But if you have work study opportunities, if you work in retail or the service sector, all of those are ways to build up your professional experience and exposure. They teach you about customer service, about detail management, about how to handle difficult situations. Lots of ways to gain experience from those everyday activities. If you're able to, again, you can build up your knowledge of both international workplaces as well as language study through study abroad, through different fellowship programs. Whether it's a short term opportunity or a long term one, exposure to how things get done in other places is absolutely critical. It also builds your project management skills, your writing skills, your communication skills. Exposure to other people and places helps advance all of these different areas. It even expands your network as now you have contacts and colleagues in places other than where you are based. You can build these skills through your coursework. Practice taking that 80-page paper and turning it into a short term memo. Shop it out to a different publication. Lots of different places are looking for undergraduate or graduate student work to publish in their journals. If that's not a possibility, you can even start a blog and just start to put your ideas out there as a way of sharpening your writing, conveying your ideas, putting forth the research and the work that you've done and what you've learned from that work as a part of your analytical building capacity, your writing skills, your communication skills. All of these things can be done in the course of your everyday academic life. You can also be the person who volunteers to give the class presentation, especially if this is something that scares you. Doing it in the safe space of a classroom can be a really helpful way to start to build those muscles in public communication as well as in writing. There are also lots of ways to get international experience and time abroad and work on your writing through programs like the US Peace Corps or the US AmeriCorps, volunteering in your local community, volunteering online. Lots of different ways to build up those professional skills, but that also can be a project management experience. You have to make sure as you apply to these fellowships and programs that all of the right pieces get to all of the right places. And so it is too an exercise in professional development to make sure that you're harnessing all of these different resources and getting them where they need to go. In addition to your immediate network around you, there are also lots of young professionals groups and other places that you can tap in to build relationships. Some of them are quite broad, like young professionals in foreign policy. Others are more focused, like women of color advancing peace and security. These worldwide networks let you broaden your perspective, broaden the people you get to know, while finding key allies that can be an effective part of your network. There's also a lot of different things that you can do remotely if leaving your home community is not a possibility or you can't be gone for long periods of time. Lots of organizations have moved to remote internship opportunities, which not only lets you access things that might not normally be in your immediate vicinity, but also as the workforce moves to hybrid and remote work, It lets you get a different understanding of how it is to interact with a team or a boss in a remote setting. So it's really preparing you for that workforce of the future. There's also lots of possibilities right around you to get global exposure. Perhaps a local hospital or police force is interested in your language skills. There are lots of groups working to resettle refugees and immigrant communities and help welcome them and acculturate them to life where you are. There's probably an international student services office on your campus who's looking for folks that are curious about the world and want to interact with people from different cultures and places. So, whether it's on campus or in your community or online, lots of ways to start to work on those professional skills, get that intercultural professional experience, and build out your network. I mentioned that you can create a blog and do research. Lots of faculty are hungry for support in those two areas. So, again, you can find this right on your campus around you as ways to enhance and build up your knowledge and your skill set while practicing all of those five key areas. If working for free is not a possibility, sometimes there are freelance projects, short term specific assignments that you can fit in between other activities and often can get paid for. There's also things like contract work, where over the course of a time period, you'll be able to deliver on lots of different projects. Some of these things might be done remotely, like the UN Online Volunteer Corps or MapGive or the Humanitarian Open Street Map Project. Lots of ways that you can work on those skills on your own timetable and in your own location. And the same thing is true about being able to build up your own network. There are lots of online events these days or hybrid events that you can attend no matter where you're located and watch and listen to how professionals talk about an issue. What terms do they use? Where are they suggesting that issue is moving? And then, when possible, you can follow up with those speakers and say, "Oh, I saw you speak on this event. I really liked your point about this. I'm curious why you didn't talk about that. Can I come and talk to you?" So, using those online events as a way to open doors and build up your network can be a really useful way of expanding far beyond the immediate circles or the structured groups that you may have encountered in other places. So, those five skills: professional experience, clear communication, analytical abilities, project management, and a strong network can be built in lots of different ways in person, online, wherever you happen to find yourself. You just need to think about those many different choices you can make to build up those five skills and advance your international affairs career. We at APSIA try to make that process a little bit easier. We have a whole international affairs career guide that unpacks many different sectors and areas, suggests employers, and offers some tips. We have an active jobs board that has everything from remote internships all the way up to faculty opportunities. So many different ways for you to begin your search. If you're looking for ways to gain that experience, many different fellowships and scholarships can be found in our searchable directory, where you can find ways to access those study abroad opportunities, those times of building professional experience outside of your immediate area. So lots of different possibilities there. All of APSIA's graduate schools have a profile on our website. So if you think that graduate school might be part of your professional journey at some point, we make it very easy for you to find those programs that have demonstrated that intersection of deep international affairs work and a deep commitment to professional development. And finally, we have tons of events throughout the year, online and in person, so that you can start to build relationships with those schools and come to find out the place that makes the most sense for you. We're also active across social media, have a monthly newsletter that has opportunities and resources and advice, tells stories about what alumni have done before. So many ways to find specific opportunities and get inspired to make your entry into the international affairs space that much smoother. We are here to be of service, and we look forward to welcoming you into the international affairs community so that we can solve some of these tremendous global problems that we face together. Thank you.